This is one of my favorite times of the week where we look into the future with award-winning futurist researcher and keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton on Canada Now. Nick, good to see you, my friend.
It's always great to be here, Jeff.
Thanks, man. Well, this week we look into mankind on the moon, and for the first time since the 1970s, the U.S. is planning to send equipment to the surface of the moon in 2020 and 2021 in anticipation of a 2024 mission, a date that's been moved up by 4 years.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting to think that we are going to go back to the moon, but this time it's to do a little bit more than just plant a flag, right?
Now, what's the motivation here? Is there a financial motivation behind this?
Yeah, I mean, the moon does actually have some pretty good sort of geological sort of makeup. So helium-3 is actually hugely rare on Earth, and it's quite abundant up there, they found, or they speculate certainly. Rare earth metals and a bunch of other things. You know, if we can work out how we can mine on the moon and send that back to Earth, then that could be useful. Or even keep it on the moon and, you know, build out settlements and whatever. What's really fascinating to me about being able to go to the moon is if you can actually build, you know, space academies, the ability to do research there and use that as the jump-off point for doing, you know, further travel.
Exploration?
Yeah, space exploration.
Oh, boy.
You need less fuel to take off from the moon, etc. Right?
That's right.
So I think that it could actually lead to huge leaps and bounds in our knowledge of how space works.
It's amazing that the moon could just be a layover.
Well, that's
travel.
it. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. It's completely doable. What is it, about 3 days, get to the moon, go and have a vacation for a couple of weeks, come back. There's someone's already trying to come up with a space hotel.
Really?
Yeah, it'd be about $13 million for a week.
It's not Trump, is it?
5 days of space. No, independent. I was down in San Francisco 2 years ago, and I was amazed at how many space entrepreneurs I met.
Really?
People that were working on looking at mining and exploration, people looking at travel, transportation. You know, NASA's just chosen 3 different partners that are private companies to help them build everything from like lunar landers to vehicles for the moon and places to live. So it's a fascinating world, this world of lunar exploration.
Okay, so life on the moon.
Yeah.
What could it be like? Like, what do we do, like, in terms of oxygen and food?
Yeah, so these are like closed systems and being able to regenerate oxygen from what there is. And, you know, you can have closed water systems. They're called black water systems. So you're literally, the water that you drink and you use is literally reconstituted from the water that hits the air and your urine and
Nice.
Whatever. There's tech companies down in San Francisco doing the same thing, funnily enough. But, you know, being able to generate oxygen, growing plants and gardens on the moon, a lot of this research has been done and it's ready to go.
So this tech, does it just need to be adapted to space? Like, is it's ready to go? Like, it's ready to go? It's ready to be used on the moon? Or?
Yeah, so a lot of it's been developed specifically with space in mind. So for example, you might work out how you can grow lettuce in a smaller, confined, more scientific environment. They've actually now worked out how to do that in zero gravity or lower gravity because there's certain effects.
Wow.
And now they actually can produce that so that it can be used, and you know you can grow crops on the moon.
How far away are we from this realistically?
Yeah, realistically, it's like how quickly can we get there, and how many people can we get there, and the materials that we need to build, you know, places for people to live. Realistically, something that's a semblance of, say, a 50 to 100 person research laboratory that's fairly permanent, obviously people traveling back and forth, probably within like 20 to 25 years.
Boy, and this is my lifetime in theory.
And probably even sooner. But the early days, it's always going to be fraught with danger and risk. And over time, that danger and risk disappears. And then it becomes pretty standard. It's like, hey, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'm just going to work on the moon.
Just going to the moon. I'll be back.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be. Would you be first in line?
Would I be first in line?
If they were gathering a number of people, and you were able to sign up and say, I'll go.
I don't think I'd be first on their list. But like, you know,
Let's say it was open.
Yeah, okay. Let's say it was open.
You have the opportunity. Would you
okay.
take advantage of it?
Sure. Why
And
not?
why wouldn't you be one of the first on the list?
Yeah. Well, you take geologists and material scientists and, you know, geneticists and doctors.
I think you need a futurist and a keynote speaker there.
I could bore them to death on those long cold moon evenings.
You'd be entertaining. Yeah.
No. I could be their entertainment. I could be the reporter. I could beam back and be on the show from the moon.
That'll be a future assignment. I'll still be here.
Nikolas Badminton, Tranquility Base.
So would you? Would you sign up if you could?
Do you know what I would? I would go to the moon because it'd be fairly easy to get back. When people say, "Hey, would you go to Mars?" That's a different conversation.
Yeah, but the moon is out of this planet.
Yeah.
It's still, I mean, that's still far.
It's a long way. What was it 350,000 kilometers away?
I'm nodding like I know. I don't
something
know.
like that.
But yeah.
I was actually just at a big exhibition about the moon at the Aga Khan Museum this weekend. That was fascinating.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in its symbolism in society, you know, it causes, you know, different, you know, tidal surges and all sorts of things. It's the moon's a powerful celestial object.
Well, it does have power in terms of employment here on Earth. One would think that this would open up a lot of opportunities for different jobs as well.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's interesting. Citizen astronaut, scientists, geologists, and all of these people. It's going to be a very valid occupation. I wouldn't know what a salary would be. What would your salary be?
Goodness.
You know, I'm a moon geologist. Do you get paid the same as being a geologist in Alberta? You might actually get paid very similar. You just got a much higher risk of maybe struggling a little bit.
I think there's got to be a little bit more. I don't want to piss off anybody in Alberta, but I think that it's a risk reward type of thing. I think you should be compensated for the number of risks that you would be entering into.
It's like the early pioneers in North America forging their way across the territories that have never been crossed before. This is it.
It's similar, yeah, absolutely.
People are in it for the adventure. Mm-hmm. You know, why do you climb that mountain? Because it's there, right?
Because it's there,
yeah. And why do you go there? I mean, you see this kind of thing in science fiction movies all the time, but, you know, from a practical perspective, you know, mining the moon and being able to go there and create scientific experiments, understanding the effects on the human body, you know, having children on the moon.
Having children. Imagine the first moon kid.
Imagine
first
that.
Moon baby.
It would actually be really interesting. I mean, say that kid grows up for 20 years and in that lower gravity, and then he comes to the Earth. They can't move. Because like the gravity's too much. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So you might have a whole population on the moon that can never, ever come to Earth.
That's right. They've got to stay there. They can't come here. Now, what about Canada's involvement? Like, Canada is partnering with NASA with a $2 billion investment. This is the first major infusion of cash into Canada's space program in more than 2 decades. Are you saying, hey, about time?
It's one of those things that I think it's just the right time to get involved. Obviously, you know, back in the day, the space shuttle in the Canadarm, and I got to meet Commander Chris Hadfield as well a couple of years ago. Amazing guy.
Yes, I've had him on the show a couple of times.
Amazing.
I was just talking about him before the show.
Fascinating guy, and really sort of carves out what a future could be like. I do think it's time. This is a geopolitical move, right? To be part of that game. Yeah. The thing is, if you're going to land there and you want to have a right to have access to some of those resources and the learnings and whatever, I think it's really important. I think being able to look further than our own borders into, you know, a wild place like the moon can actually help inspire an entire nation of inventors and innovators and kids that want to think bigger, and that makes Canada stronger, and it's worth more than the $2 billion laid down, right?
Yeah. Well, could this be like the 60s all over again? I guess the 50s and the 60s all over again, where there are countries seeing what like Russia versus the U.S. and who's going to get to the moon first. Are we kind of seeing a similar situation here, given how much less interest there has been, at least from North America, in going to the moon? Like China has landed twice on the moon in recent years, 2013 back in January. Do you think the U.S., Canada is seeing what China's doing and saying, I think we got to get in on this?
It's really interesting. No one really owns the territory of space. No one really owns the territory of the moon. It needs to be collaborative. We need to keep it that way. Unfortunately,
it's not going to stay that way.
The old guys in charge of countries are going to try and have a bit of a land grab, right?
Yeah.
But really, I think what we need to do is we need to keep this independent, and we need to work out what that looks like and feels like for humanity as a whole.
Well, if that's going to happen, then would there have to be, and maybe there is, but would there have to be some, okay, look, we're all investing in this together. This is not a Chinese investment. This is not American. This is not a Canadian investment. This is an investment of equal parts for everybody that's going to be involved. Does it have to start here, financially speaking, for that to happen?
Well, it doesn't have to start here, but it's going to come from a more affluent nation. Canada's actually got that rich history of innovation and space. It's got a rich history of being pioneers. Why can't we, as a smaller nation in the world, be the ones that are up there doing the work? We've got some of the smartest people in the world.
Sure.
It absolutely blows my mind. I meet so many people every week that are just like, it's like, wow, you're going to change the world. You're what you're inventing, how you're thinking. So I think Canada needs to be there. In fact, people should pay for Canadians to be there.
So do you think that should be part of what we need to pay for? I guess we in turn are with this investment.
Yeah, I mean, we're paying for it, and I think that it's an important part of a Canadian identity and a Canadian future that's going to be really important for us.
Is this going to be part of our interest and part of our conversation over the next number of years? Because we might see the next man and first woman on the moon in 5 years. Is this going to be something that is talked about a lot, that is going to be on the front page of newspapers, and I'm using that in air quotes, on websites? Is this going to be part of something that we talk about a lot, where we say, hey, it's happening 1 year away? Like, are we going to be talking about this a lot?
It's still hugely newsworthy because it's really, really hard to send people there. There's a huge investment. There's a lot riding on. There's an Israeli company that's trying to be the first private company to land on the moon. I mean, they didn't manage to do it. They ended up crashing there. But just that step forward to be the private company. You've got Jeff Bezos with what he's doing with Blue Origin. You've got Musk, what he's doing with SpaceX, and they all work with NASA and different international space agencies as well, right? Yeah, I just think being there, doing this, and it's got to be newsworthy. People have been addicted to space since the space race in like the 1960s, right? Someone landed on the moon, all the way through. Space Shuttle, Chris Hadfield.
Yeah. Well, he was. I read The Dark is Dark, his kid's book, to my kid every single night.
Right.
And we talk about it every night, about how he was inspired. I've talked to Chris Hadfield about it. I'm sure you have, where he was inspired by that. He saw that and said, I want to do that. And as a Canadian, he had no business wanting to do that or dreaming about doing that, because there wasn't any inkling that Canada was going to be involved in this in any way, shape, or form. And yet, look what he was able to accomplish.
Yeah, can you imagine the conversations when he goes, I want to take my guitar into space. They're like, that's gonna be $40,000 in fuel alone, right? It's like, trust me, you have to trust me.
That's Chris, the weird kid in the family. Yeah, he had it right.
But those who believe and those that dream do. And they're the people that change the world. Right?
And you meet these people all the time.
Yeah.
The ones that dream big, that might look like they were built out of something different than the rest of us.
Yeah.
You see these people all the time, and without the people that dream big, none of this stuff happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we come from a society in the early days of the Industrial Revolution. There were people prescribing how we live our lives, what we're going to buy, and how we're going to act. Now we're in this sort of 2019 to 2030 sort of cycle where we're breaking out of those barriers, and we can take back control of our lives, and we can say there's a different way to live and there's a different way to think. Let's do it.
Well, and that's why we have you here each week, so we can anticipate what that's going to be like. Check out NikolasBadminton.com, futurist researcher and keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton. Nick, it's always great to see you, man. Looking forward to next week.
I love coming in, Jeff.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.